for it, and I just did. This is Danny Easy D Dorman. 5 Easy Questions, Part 2. This is such a fascinating conversation. I had to pick it up. And I want to thank my guest tonight for allowing me the time to do this, DJ Cli-n-Tel.
What's up with you, man? Hey, it's good to do it, brother. It's good chopping it up, man. We just two brothers talking, man. That's all it is, you know.
That is what this shtick is all about, man. Two cats talking at the end of the day. But man, when we dropped off, you were talking about people who mentored you, people who guided you. There was a name in particular, two-part question, three-part question. The gentleman, the person, how you met, and what was his influence?
So it was Professor John Henrik Clarke. He was the lead researcher and really good friend and advisor to Malcolm X. And we met once. He was given a lecture. He was given a speech. And after the speech, I approached him and we, started talking and everything, and exchanged numbers and information. And from that point on, man, we just, struck up a friendship. I'd call him on the phone, and he was always accessible to me. He would always be giving me advice. We talk about everything, but I always appreciated the personal stories, that he would tell, and the sort of the strategy, the overall sort of arcing strategies that he would talk about in terms of what Malcolm X's mindset was, the OAAU and that whole formation, and just the bigger, wider scope of terms like Pan-Africanism and Afrocentricity and sort of the African diaspora, and what our sort of responsibility is to the future of of society, right? And it gave me an understanding, or it helped me to get a clearer picture of what my responsibility is, right? Now, that's not to say that everybody has the same responsibility, but I think there is a certain sort of standard or a certain level that we all should aspire to, and then wherever we go from there is just icing on the cake. So all kinds of advice that he would give me, but I love the stories that he would tell about his personal relationship with Malcolm X, but then also just the jewels he dropped in terms of, okay, this is how we made our moves, and here's why. And it's like, wow, that makes a whole bunch of sense to me. And so out of that, I recognize what my responsibility was in terms of the tools that I had in my toolbox and what I could do to help. So that's what it was about, man.
Oh man, that's the thing about 5 Easy Questions too, man. Brother gets a phone call right in the middle of a conversation.
Yeah.
Hey, it's all right. No, bill collector. Black man in America. I'm going to get that call every once in a while.
Get those Billy calls, man.
Those Billy calls.
Billy's calling.
Yeah, who's calling? Oh, he ain't here. Who? King Todd? Kick-off Todd? With all due respect to my Asian brothers and sisters, don't try and cancel me. That actually is going to lead into this question as we were talking. When I was a kid, it was all about the whole, singing in harmony, the United Colors of Pendleton. We weren't trying to cancel each other out. You said what you said, I said what I said. We either liked it or not. Yeah. Maybe we went into fisticuffs about it, whatever.
Yeah.
You look at today though, and you can't even, what I had just done, and that is not a slam against a particular race or anything else, but these delicate little flowers now. Dude, they tried to stop Mr. Potato Head. I was like, what the? I was tripping. I thought that was a joke.
Right.
Until,
Well, yeah, Mr. Potato Head has gone gender neutral.
yeah,
And hey, listen, I'm the kind of guy that I believe in inclusion. I believe that everybody has, like I said, live your truth and whatnot. However, it's important that we do recognize that we are human beings. Um, you might catch a person, man, on their worst day, and they may say some things or do something that, to be honest, is not the worst thing in the world. And the question is, should they be completely, erased, everything taken away for, one mistake or one or two situations where you caught them, in a bad moment or on a bad day. And it works both ways, right? It
right,
works both ways because where's the line and where do we kind of pause and say, all right, human beings are flawed. Inherently we are flawed. All of us. We all make mistakes. We all have situations and circumstances and perceptions, and my perception about something may be slightly different than yours or whatever it is. But why not create opportunities for dialogue, for exchange, for a meeting of the minds, if you will, or at least um, an opportunity to have conversations, about things that affect us or things that maybe we have grown up culturally
right,
and learned. But I think it's also another component that we sort of miss, which is, bad news travels 5 times faster than good news. So you can do 20 good things and you do one bad thing, and that will go everywhere much faster than those 20 good things that you've done. And somehow that bad thing seems to carry a lot more weight than all the other good stuff. So I think it's important that we sort of put things in perspective and take things in totality and in context versus, just pouncing on a person and wanting to completely just cancel out everything that they've done, all the good stuff that they've done, because, maybe they've made a couple of, poor decisions or had some poor choices in life. As long as, again, you're not fringing completely on someone else or impeding someone else's, life, liberty, and pursuit of property/happiness,
right.
then it behooves me to see how much people get pounced on. And the technology in a lot of cases nowadays allows for that news to travel instantaneously to the point where you don't even have time to catch up to trying to mitigate or slow some of the bad news or the misinformation down or the perspective that's skewed down. I don't know, man, but yeah, I agree that the culture nowadays is to the point where it has created some very heightened sensitivities and about things that can be mitigated in different ways. And I don't have the answers on how to slow that train down or get to a point where, again, we go, whoa, let's have a conversation about this, a real one. And this was my understanding of what I was saying versus what you understood, how you received it. I'm sorry.
Mm.
Um, I've learned from this mistake. Can we move forward without completely tearing down my legacy? And that's where I think we have to kind of go.
Yeah, and I agree wholeheartedly. And I'll even add to that, looking for problems that aren't there.
Mm.
Like I said, Mr. Potato Head.
Yeah.
What did he do to get somebody's attention to the point
Yeah.
where, yeah. Now, and the thing was, there's actually a Mrs. Potato Head. So it's not as though it's not like Mr. Peanut, who I guess he's going to be on the rocks pretty soon too.
Yeah, I
Uh,
think they're going to remove the Mister from that. I've heard that. It could have been a joke, but I've heard that that's a possibility.
yeah, it's but that's again looking for a problem that just isn't there. It's spending. I can't imagine. I can't even imagine, dude. I can't imagine waking up and thinking, you know what? That goddamn Mr. Potato Head.
Listen, man. I am a staunch supporter of a woman's right to be in an egalitarian, equitable society with men. I fight for social justice for any and all people. I believe in that.
Right.
But I also grew up in an era where there was a Mr. Potato Head, where there was a Miss Piggy, where some of the tropes and references in the dynamics of male female relationships, were defined a different way. But I had enough awareness in my head to know that equality is a different kind of animal. I can see a person for who they are and meet them where they are versus, being so afraid to address them. And I grew up in an era where certain lines and distinctions were made. So I don't see how, you know, if you completely change the landscape with, trying to sort of erase or really contain and control terminology, how that's going to be beneficial, in the long run. I mean, I get that people say, well, if you don't use certain terminologies or if you teach kids to perceive things a certain way, then they'll grow up more tolerant. But my point is, hey, I'm tolerant.
Right.
At least I like to think that I am, and I know a lot of my peers who grew up with me were just as tolerant and continuously fight for social justice. The generation before me, a lot of people are tolerant and continue to fight for equality and social justice. So, yeah, it's a weird situation. It's almost like there are people really looking to try and sort of control the way we make our decisions and choices and the way we think. So we got to be careful about that side of it as well.
Yeah, it's not a zero sum game, and to put your morals or ethics or whatever um, of today back on something from the 50s, the 60s, the 70s, and try to look through a prism of today back then. Laughing is an example.
Right.
I was watching somebody put it on Facebook, and I looked at it. The first thing I thought of was they couldn't play that today.
Oh, Benny Hill
Benny
would,
Hill.
would would never make it in today's society. Monty Python, those kinds of that highbrow slapstick kind of humor. I mean, I could see the Three Stooges not making it, in today's society. And you kind of have to have an understanding of the era that it was created in and see it from that perspective. You may not always agree with what was being done. And yes, you have a right to say, well, all right, this is the way they were doing it then based on the perception of that.
Right.
But to completely just try and erase it that's a whole nother dangerous kind of, I don't know, that's going the other way.
Right. No, I agree. As you were talking about cartoons, I thought about Steamboat Willie, and what was the other one? Not Uncle Tom's Cabin. Maybe that's what it is. And of course, it was looking at it today. And this is as we're talking, I'm thinking maybe it is a generational thing. I'm a child, a teen of the 70s. And if I look back at how we were treated back in the 40s and 50s, yeah, I'd sit there and say, oh, hell no, I wouldn't let
Yeah.
that happen to me.
Right.
But then again, I wasn't there.
Yeah.
And, why we as a people were more tolerant or more subservient, whatever the case may be, at least for me, I try not to look through that lens because I wasn't there. I could only say that ain't gonna happen today.
Yeah, because change happens in slow increments, right?
Right.
It's a gradual thing. We'd love to wake up tomorrow and everything would be just completely flipped around and there's, equality across the board and we don't have, sort of this lopsided economic, control that's happening where a small few are controlling a large part of the economy and the masses are sort of suffering, continuously. We'd love to have that change tomorrow. But change really takes place in gradual, slow increments. And that's just the nature of the beast. And we can see the progress. We can see if you're going back and learn the history and understand it for what it is. You can see that gradual, progress. And yes, we should continue to fight, but to take one era out of context and then go, if that was me, I wouldn't have. It's a difficult thing to say, to criticize those folks because you don't know, what they've gone through. I'll give you an example, just going back to music.
Mhm.
So when we were doing our thing initially, Wrecking Crew, there weren't a lot of rap acts touring and whatnot. So most of the tours we were on, they were with R&B acts. The audience, the crowd, the people, that was an R&B crowd. So as an act on stage, we had to blend in with the other R&B acts.
Right.
Thus the shiny sequin suits, thus the sort of staged kind of look, to what we were doing and what we were representing. But now, 30 something years later, people go, that ain't hip hop. Where the jeans, where the tennis shoes, where the t-shirts. People don't realize though, again, back then that was a different era. We had to do it differently. You can't take somebody 30 years later out of context and criticize them for what they were doing within the context, because back then that was dope. I mean, you would see an iced tea with spikes and chains on. You would see, Melly Mel and Grandmaster Flash with the high, fur collars and the spikes and on the hand and stuff like that, because that's what was happening then.
Right.
But now that the era has changed a bit, yes, you can look at it in 20 years from now, people are going to be laughing at the skinny jeans and the crazy colored hair and all the other stuff. So it's all about context, man. It's all about context.
Yeah. Well, since you mentioned music, let's go out on a higher note. Explain to the world what a DJ hunch is.
A DJ hunch. Wow. I would say for me, it would kind of mean a feeling, a thought, a process where, as a DJ, you just kind of know through your experience what an audience would like, what they're into, what you need to to excite that crowd or to get them motivated or to get them going. Part of that comes from experience. Part of it comes from digging through crates and getting sort of like this breadth of knowledge. But it also comes through um, knowing your crowd, knowing your audience, knowing what they want. That's what it really means for me.
Yeah, man. Yeah. Now, I actually meant to say DJ hump, but yeah, the carrying the big record crates, 4, 5, 6 flights of
Oh my
stairs.
gosh, man! I mean, that was like moving in a small apartment every single time. That was like that's why we had 20, 30 guys in our crew, because as we grew as Wrecking Crew, because we started out as DJs. So as we grew as a crew and we started to be in more demand and we started to do bigger halls and bigger, clubs, we needed to move all that stuff in and out when the halls didn't have it, or when we were doing remote rentals.
Right.
So, or doing remote parties, or doing, parties in, sort of higher end Beverly Hills, expensive, type folks. I remember one time we did a party at Muhammad Ali's house. That was so cool, man. It was
Wow.
one of his daughters, uh, Sweet 16. And it was an honor to be there. It was an honor to meet him. And it was an honor to do that party up in Hancock Park. But yeah, that hump, the DJ hump was, yeah, making that work, moving those crates, hauling that equipment. It wasn't the record, coffin,
Right.
with the turntables in it. Anybody know about Technique 1200 turntables? They are not lightweight. They're heavy as heck. They needed to be, though, to have that stability. So yeah, we would move that stuff in and out. And we had a crew that would carry that stuff with us, man. Sometimes 10, 15, 20 guys, working with us to do that. That's how we met. Actually, that's how we met Ice Cube.
Oh, okay.
Because, yeah, because Sir Jinx is Dre's cousin,
Hmm.
and he lived down the street from Ice Cube, and they had a little DJ crew. And so Jinx would always bother us. Hey man, can you come over? And check out me and my crew, and we got some things going on. We got some things happening. So we'd always turn him down. So finally one day, I think it might have been his birthday or Ice Cube's birthday, somebody's birthday,
Hmm.
and we went to the birthday party, not realizing that we were being set up. Because as soon as me and Dre walked in there, they had their microphones and the turntables. Boom, they started performing, and I heard Cube do his thing, and I said, man, that dude, that cat got some fire, man. So I pulled Dre to the side and I said, man, let's go and work with these kids, man. They got something, let's do something with them.
Hmm.
And so Dre was like, nah, man, we ain't got time for that. Forget that. We don't have time for that. So finally, I like convinced him, man, let's work with him. Let's work. So fine. All right, bring him in. So we brought him into our little 4-track, recording studio. And all right, what you guys got? So they started doing their thing. Nah, man, let's do it like this, record it like that, say it like this. And so I started mentoring them. I started mentoring Ice Cube and mentoring KD and Jinx. And they became a part of our family. And that's the
Yeah.
rest of that is history, man.
And thank you for reminding me. O'Shea, you owe me $20 too.
Oh man, we all O'Shea owe you $20 too. My goodness.
Yeah, man. Yeah, it's like
Well, see, Lonzo wasn't paying us a lot
you
at that
know.
time, man.
Yes, I'm trying to get Lonzo on this, man, because man,
I'm telling you. I'm telling
that's an unsung by himself.
you. Yeah.
I've watched him in some of the documentaries, but he's an unsung by
And
himself.
we are actually doing a documentary right now called Not Without Alonzo that we're producing, that we're going to put out on him. It's actually in post production
Okay.
right now. But yeah, he's a character, man. He's definitely a character. I'll let him know. I'll talk to him and tell him,
Yeah, yeah, man. Yeah,
because he and I we still perform together. I mean, after
oh,
after I broke and left, those guys for a while and did my own solo, situation.
right.
Some years later, he and I got back together and we started working together again.
Oh man, yeah, man. Yeah, just say yeah. The cat from the Pittsburgh show, you owe him $20.
I'll let him know.
Yeah, man. Yeah, man. This was a pleasure, dude. I am so glad we did this.
Yeah,
Because that's a great thing. Two cats talking brought back to your mind your meeting of Muhammad Ali, and brought to
yeah.
me that knowledge of just a couple of people that you interacted with, that helped make you the person you are today. And uh, man, this has been an honor and a privilege, man. Really.
Same here, man. Same here, man. And
Yeah.
it's so many more people, that I could honor, man. I mean, being in the presence of like Dizzy Gillespie and Maya Angelou, and those folks, I looked up to them as well. I'm here recognizing greatness. I mean, I met James Baldwin, once, and yeah, that was my reaction. Like, wow, this is the guy, this is the dude. So it made me realize what the responsibility, truly was that we have to 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 help build, enhance, and pass on the knowledge to the next generation. And that's another reason why, when we were talking earlier about education, why I got into education. I'm a staunch, strong supporter and believer of, bettering oneself through education. I understand that not everybody can go to college and whatnot, but whatever you can do, we have so much information now at our fingertips, technology wise. Do not neglect it. Always work every day to try and better yourself and better your circumstances, because the more you know, the less people can take advantage of you.
Exactly. YouTube, man. It's amazing. Anytime I need to learn something,
Yeah.
I YouTube it. Dude, I started studying um, quantum computing from
Yeah.
YouTube.
Oh
Yeah.
yeah.
So it's I've learned everything from that to
That's a fascinating field. We could talk for hours about that too, man. I mean, yes, the things that quantum computing can do these days. I mean, anyway, I don't want to get into all that because we'll be here for another
yeah,
4 or 5
exactly.
hours, man, talking.
Exactly. But it's fascinating because my
Yeah,
son trying to explain to him the Schrodinger's cat
yeah,
uh, um, um, hypothesis.
yeah.
But yeah, you're right, dude. But again, I went back one day and I was bored and I said, let me YouTube this. And I've learned from there. I learned how to do this little thing I do. I learned how to replace a stick shift on my car. Yeah,
Wow.
so having the information available, I agree with you 110%. Not everyone can go to college yet. Not everyone can even finish high school.
Yeah.
They may not be built for it. But if they, if the more you'd be amazed, and I'm preaching to the choir here, but for those watching this, you'll be amazed how hungry you get as you start feeding yourself knowledge.
That's true. That's
You
true.
start getting hungry and hungry for that knowledge. And the thing is, I have yet to be full, from knowledge.
Endless,
It's still
endless
ravenous to me.
capacity, man. Endless capacity. We have endless capacity to learn. So that's why I say, man, I encourage everybody, if you can, whatever you can do to, have some time, sit down and learn something new. Make it a goal, for yourself. Make it a point to, to gain some more knowledge every single day that you live. And again, our time that we exist is so precious, and take advantage of every single moment that you are alive. And I'll just leave with this quote right here, and this, I think it sums it up. Albert Einstein, he once said that the mind that opens to a new idea never returns to its original size. Again, a mind that opens to a new idea never returns to its original size. And I'll just leave you with that, man.
Dude. And all I can say then is thank you. And this has been Danny Easy D Dorman. 5 easy questions, part 2.
Yes.
Peace,
Luke.
man. All right. Well, let's talk about what you just mentioned.
So we were talking about, of course, special relativity and general relativity and Albert Einstein. But I'm actually working on a film. I've been working on this film, trying to get it together for a few years now. A screenplay that I had written with a partner of mine, friend of mine, that is on Albert Einstein. It's on his life and his legacy and everything else. It's not a documentary. It is an actual narrative film about things that a lot of people didn't know about him. But in doing my research, a friend of mine, I would say, he did pass away a couple of years ago, but he was actually friends with Einstein's grandson. They were
Wow.
they were good friends. He lived at Einstein's grandson lived at his house. He knew Einstein's son. But the stories that he would tell, and then the research that I did, it really got me into a deeper understanding of quantum physics, quantum computing, the whole idea of where we are in space time and how it exists. I know earlier we were talking about Schrodinger's cat and superposition and all that kind of stuff. But the cool part about it is, and I want to say this, is that it has the sort of this understanding, or at least 20 years from now, where we will be, because we're creating these models and simulations and whatnot about the existence of the universe, the origins of the universe, what time really is, whether or not the present exists versus the past already existing versus the future, or is it just one sort of big, you know, loaf of bread that our brains slice into smaller increments. My goodness, man, we can go on about this stuff for hours and hours and hours. But yeah, that's one film that we're working on. It's called Einstein, Love and Light. And it literally talks about the loves in his life, the two women that he married, Maleva and Elsa. And then also light. The light part is, again, his journey, his scientific journey into trying to understand the universe as it was. Einstein wasn't the best writer,
Right.
but he was a brilliant thinker, and a lot of thought experiments that he would do in his head were done, in fact, when he was working at a patent office,
Right.
trying to get out of that situation. But also, we do talk about, not to give away too much of the story, the impact that his first wife Maleva had played on him formulating a lot of his early ideas and thoughts and revolutionary sort of experiments and the math that he was doing, because that has implications today. A lot
Right.
of people will know, based on what he did with the photoelectric effect, that is why when you walk into a supermarket or a store, that door goes and closes because of that ability that was created out of calculations and experiments that Einstein was doing back then. So the implications, what I'm saying is, of what we're doing now with quantum computing, with quantum physics, will have impact, for years to come.
Man, wow. I can't wait for that to come out then, man. You have the well, I'll edit this out just in case you don't want anything to be spoiled out there, but the Lonzo
Alonzo
documentary,
Doc, yep.
and then the Einstein biopic,
Yep.
and of course the book you already have now, dude. I honestly, and I'm not really, I love reading, but I have to do it in big chunks.
Yeah.
I can't wait, dude. I may have to look for the cliff notes.
It's a really easy read, man. It's conversational, especially the first half is completely just, me riffing and having a conversation as if I'm sitting down talking to my buddy, telling him some stories.
Okay.
The second part, that's the more scholarly piece, where I include some writings and some essays on various topics, and they're researched and whatnot. So you can get by if you wanted to just hear the stories and the origin stories, man, the first 150 pages or so of just that. And then if you want to get deeper into some of the stuff that we're talking about right now, in my experiences, like I said, from being mentored by Professor John Henry Clark and a lot of other folks, and readings of, Dr. Ben Yakinen and Francis Cress Welsing and those folks, then that second half is for that. So yeah, it's all good, man. It's all good.
Man, we definitely have to keep in touch. I'm getting ready to babysit my grandson for the first time, man. I got to get ready. That was my kid who was calling. So I definitely got to cut it short. Otherwise, I'll be hitting another Zoom, man. Obviously, we could chop it up all day.
Yeah.
That's not a problem, man. And like I said, I'll send you my contact information. Let's keep in touch, dude. Seriously, man.
Please, man. Please do. Definitely.
All right,
man.
brother. I certainly will. I'm not going to do the 5 easy questions anymore because I'm already going to be chopping this up and putting it here and there.
Right.
So I'll talk to you later, fam.
All right. Take care, man.
All right, man. Late.